What's going on, guys? Beefloodin here with a brand new video today. Today we're going to be talking about the Lightning Perfume Bottle build. Just a couple of things to preface before we get into the build itself. The first one is just to be completely transparent. Yes, I am Rune level 234, which is pretty excessive for what is going on with this. If that skews your opinion, then I just wanted to make sure that I was transparent about that first. A lot of this is very unnecessary, though. The things that will be considered necessary is 60 health. Everything else is going to be the minimum requirements for the build that is actually needed to wield and hold, but there is some damage numbers that can be skewed when you see them on screen during clips. Another thing to really talk about is that this build is probably going to get nerfed because it does rely off of hitboxes with a certain interaction, and everything is kind of just built on top of that. So now that we have that out of the way, go ahead and get into the build, shall we? So while talking about the required stats for everything, I do 60 health, mainly for the DLC. If you have none of the fragments, they're pretty required, I would say. 60 health is a pretty good starting point to get into the DLC before you pick up a couple of fragments so that you can get your attack power and defenses up. Once you have this, 60 health is a little bit overkill. I like doing a 15 mind. This allows you to get a couple of your buffs off properly, and so that you can get a couple of casts as well before needing to do a flask. I'm at 18. It makes it so that I can do a Golden Vow and enough Hallow Shabriris to proc Madness to be able to be completely out, so that one flask is actually worthwhile. I do a 30 Endurance. It takes me to a 31.9 equip load, so I could stay under medium load. 30 is a little bit high, but I do like the extra stamina whenever I'm spamming the Lightning Perfume Bottle. Strength is a 14. It's a little bit overkill, but my starting character was a lot different. You can go all the way down with a 9 strength and be totally fine. Dexterity of 60. Dexterity I like in the 50 to 60 range, mostly for speed, but you can also do katanas on the build as well if you need to switch up your playstyle. That's why Arcane is also pretty high too. If you need to switch up the build slightly, you are able to open up and do that. I like Scavenger's Curved Swords, because this build is combining a little bit with my first build, the Dragon Incantation build. Intelligence at 9, not really needed. Faith, the minimum requirement is going to be 33 for Hallow Shabriri. Everything else in there is just excessive. It's really not needed. But again, I do like doing Dragon Incantation stuff, so higher Faith is fine for some of them. Arcane of 50. I like it for the katanas in case I switch up to katanas. If I want to do a bleed Dragon Incantation hybrid, I'm able to do so, but I primarily focus on the Lightning Perfume Bottle. That's just there just because, and hence that's why my rune level is level 234 in journey number 3. Now that we have that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the equipment. There is a couple of things that are very important for the build, and also some stuff is just for flavor. So the first thing is obviously the Lightning Perfume Bottle. I get it to plus 25. Dexterity and Faith is a C scaling, but the requirements are very low too. Dexterity 16, Faith 14, Strength 3. Very easy to wield, very easy to have. Now you'll notice that there is a Ash of War that's attached to it called Rolling Sparks. That's going to make it so that it has range. Now, Rolling Sparks is also the thing that's going to be primarily the damage boost, and the reason why this build is probably going to get hit in the future. We'll talk about that in just a second. I have the Dragon Communion Seal because I am using Dragon Incantation Hybrid, like I mentioned, but the best in slot here is probably the Frenzied Flame Seal, but feel free to play around and see what you like the most. If you like the hybrid, go with the hybrid. If you want to go just Lightning Perfume Bottle, Frenzied Flame Seal is probably your best in slot. The Black Dumpling is annoying as hell to get. It's a 1% drop, or sorry, 0.5% drop if you have 100 Discovery. I had to crank all the way up to 199 Discovery, and I got it shortly after. I just did a respec for High Arcane and also did the Larval Tear Mask. Those are both pretty helpful. There is also a new talisman in the DLC as well, called the Outer God Heirloom. It raises your Arcane by 5, so that was also pretty helpful. Black Dumpling is a very nice item. It is a raises attack power when you suffer from madness, which is going to be one of our buffs that combines with Black Dumpling together. I'm using the Rakshasa set. The Rakshasa set is also in the DLC. It is a raise your attack power by 2% per piece of gear that you have on, but you take more damage. So think of this like an equipment that is in the realm of Lightning Scorpion Charm or any of the charms that raise power and make you take damage. I have 3 sets on, so 6% attack damage, and also I take more damage for having it on. Talisman, I'm using the Perfumer's Talisman. Raises potency of arts employing perfume. I'm using the Lightning Scorpion Charm. It raises your lightning attack but lowers damage negation, like we mentioned earlier. Shard of Alexander is a 8% boost, greatly boosts the attack power of skills, which is going to be our Rolling Sparks, like mentioned earlier. And also the Aged One's Exaltation. Madness in the vicinity increases your attack power by a lot. This thing is absolutely needed for it, especially if you're going to be using things like the Black Dumpling, and if you're going to be using Howl of Shabriri, which is pretty much the combo together. The Wondrous Physic, I'm using the Bloodsucking Crack tier, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. It temporarily increases your attack power, but it drains your HP for a duration of 3 minutes by a little bit of a sliver. But that attack power is absolutely needed because you can combine it with the Lightning Shrouding Crack tier, and both of those will work together for the point of the build so that you can get your high damage and your one-shots. Now, the things that I'm using here, I'm using Golden Vow. Golden Vow is going to be a buff that we use with the Dragon Communion seal or Frenzied Flame seal, whichever one you choose. And I'm also using the Howl of Shabriri. Combo here that I like to do, I like to down the Flask of Wondrous Physic first because it's a 3-minute buff, whereas the Golden Vow and Howl of Shabriri are going to be maximum 40 seconds for Howl, and Golden Vow is 20 seconds. So I like to toss down the Flask first because it is a minute buff. Then I go right into Golden Vow. After Golden Vow, I go Howl of Shabriri. Enough times just to proc Madness. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3. Okay, this time it's going to be 3. So the mine that I had was at 18, so it's going to be perfect before we get procced with Madness. Then we take a drink of each flask, and then we're ready to go with the Rolling Sparks. We are now full power. The Rolling Sparks there is going to be a range attack, like I mentioned. However, what you want to do is you want to exploit hitboxes with this. The larger that your foe or boss is, the better. You want to be able to, in a short burst, take Rolling Sparks and hit the ground with that. What's essentially going on is all that attack power is going into that Rolling Sparks, and it's doubling up on the hitboxes each time. Because as you can see, if I cast it forward, there's a lot of Rolling Sparks that could go on there. With all of that in mind, you're stacking up the damage on each individual hitbox. So the larger that the enemy is, the more hitboxes that they're going to have to be able to have them deal damage. Now, you're probably wondering, what about like a humanoid enemy or a smaller enemy? Now, this does work just fine against them. However, if you're going for a one-shot, like full power hit, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. What I like to do in that case is I like to throw a couple of the range Rolling Sparks. If they roll into you, perfect. They're going to take a shit ton of damage, and they usually die in one hit. But if they don't, you are able just to spam the light attack, and they usually walk into that and they take a bunch of damage from that too. They also stagger a little bit as well. If you want to, you can even charge at them and do a heavy attack to be able to throw it all around and hit multiple enemies at once if you want to do a damage to ads as well. If you saw the opener of the video, you would see that I like to aim down, which is how I double up on hitboxes there. That's usually how this works. Now, Rolling Sparks is the reason why I think this is going to get nerfed, because it's doubling up on hitboxes and it feels unintended. However, it might be a little bit more challenging to do so. So I don't know if this is going to get nerfed in the next patch, or if there's going to be a smaller patch that they have to do later on in order to achieve this. So I would recommend getting to this build ASAP. It is very easy to get, besides the Black Dumpling. Just to talk about where you get some of these items, the Black Dumpling is off of the first generation Albinaurax in Volcano Manor. There's going to be 6 of them located in the area just before you fight the single Godskin duo boss. Rakasha armor, you just have to beat Rakasha in the DLC. Perfumer's Talisman is in Perfumer's Runes. Lightning Scorpion Charm is a ground loot, I believe. Shard of Alexander is going to be off of Alexander's full quest line, and Age 1's Exaltation is going to be off Madness enemies in the DLC. I do have a video for the Age 1's Exaltation on how to do it because you have to get a perfect time to parry in order to achieve so. The other thing that you can get in Perfumer's Runes is, well, I'm just going to throw that on the map really quick. Perfumer's Runes is right down here. Perfumer's Runes is right here. So you get the talisman, but you also get the cookbook out of there. Cookbook is important because if there's going to be a boss that's going to be giving you a little bit of a challenge, i.e. Radahn at the end of the DLC, or also if you're fighting things like Elden Beast that is damage negation to certain things, you can use the consumable called Uplifting Aromatic. It boosts ally attack power and reduces incoming damage once. So you're going to take half damage on the first attack that you take from the boss, but you're also going to be raising your attack power even further. So you can stack your damage up a little bit more, and you basically get a freebie hit with all the incoming damage negation being as low as it is. It is super helpful, and the items to make it are really not that hard to get. Arteria Leafs are off of Fuzzy Trolls, 30% drop. Liver Tusk Hears you can find in Necron, they're just on the ground. And Altus Blooms are in Altus, they are just on the ground as well. And Tave Moss, most dungeons have them, just on the ground, nice and easy to get. Very, very, very good item to have for this build. Now, again, a thing to keep in mind is that this build is probably going to get nerfed, and it's probably going to get nerfed soon, so I would hop on this as quickly as possible. If you're interested in the Dragon Hybrid, I'm also going to show some of the spells that I have here. I have Agiel's Flame, I have Smareg's Stone Breath, I have Ancient Dragon's Lightning Strike, and I have Dragon Maw with Xzeke's Decay. Now, I use these for all different purposes. There's Scarlet Rot and physical damage from Xzeke's. There is fire damage, there is intelligence damage, there is a nice AoE lightning for dragons, for example, is really helpful. Dragon Maw is a physical attack as well, just right in front of you, good high-powered knights. Also, like mini bosses as well, you can knock them flat, and you can do damage to them too. That's why I like the Dragon Hybrid, because the Dragon incantations are still pretty powerful, and it kind of fits with the build, I would say. Other than that, I think that I've pretty much covered the entire build. Feel free to have fun with it. Thing to keep in mind just before I head on out of here, this build is inspired and also directly built by another YouTuber. I'm going to link their channel in the description. I don't know how to pronounce it. I really do apologize, but I don't want to butcher it by attempting. It starts with an S. You might have seen the build in some gaming journalists as well, but I'm going to make sure to give the credit where it's due. I like doing the Dragon Incantation hybrid with my old build, so wanted to spin things up a little bit, but I really enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun. I will see you guys in the next one. My name is B Flattened, and I'm signing on out of here. Take care, all. Laters.